If you like our video, click the button to subscribe to our channel and get easy access to new content. To see our full suite of ad-free video courses, instruction manuals, and quick reference guides, visit us at www.teachucomp.com. When you add an adjustment layer or a fill layer to a Photoshop document, the content of the layers appear along with a linked layer mask. A layer mask thumbnail appears to the right of the layer content thumbnail in the Layers panel. A chain link icon appears between the layer and its layer mask to let you know that they are linked together by default. You can add layer masks to any layer in Photoshop to restrict the display of the linked layer's content, as set by the layer mask's content, without changing the content of the linked layer. A layer mask in Photoshop determines where the linked layer's content should appear and the content's opacity. A layer mask shows or hides the content of the linked layer by the color applied in the layer mask. You can only change the pixel colors in a layer mask using your raster or pixel-based tools. Any area that is colored full black hides the display of the linked layer's content. Pure white areas show the linked layer's content. Areas colored a shade of gray provide a level of opacity to the linked layer's content according to how close the gray color is to the white or black color. By default, a layer mask restricts its linked layer's content to only appear in areas selected before applying the layer mask. So, if applying a fill layer or an adjustment layer in Photoshop, the easiest way to choose where to apply the fill or adjustment is to select the area to which to apply it before creating the fill layer or adjustment layer. However, you can also edit a layer mask after applying it to change where the linked layer's content appears. To select the area to which to apply a fill layer or adjustment layer in Photoshop, use your desired selection tool to select the area in the Photoshop document. Then add the desired type of fill layer or adjustment layer while the selection is active. The fill layer or adjustment layer is then only applied to the selected area using its layer mask. If you examine the linked layer mask for the fill or adjustment layer, you can see the area where the linked layer effect appears is white. Areas where the linked effect is hidden appear black. So, you can also use your pixel editing tools, like the brush tool, to edit a layer mask in Photoshop to change its areas of effect. To edit a layer mask using the painting tools in Photoshop, select your desired painting tool, like the brush tool in the Tools panel. Then decide which color to use for the brush. If you select pure white, you will paint the areas where you want the linked layer's effect to appear. If you select pure black, you will paint the areas where you do not want the linked layer's effect to appear. If you select a different color, you will paint a semi-transparent area, which varies based on how light or dark the selected color is. After choosing a color, click the icon of the layer mask to edit in the Layers panel to select it. Then click and drag with your painting tool in the document area to add or remove areas of effect in the selected layer mask. When you select a layer mask's thumbnail icon in the Layers panel, note that you can also view its settings in the Properties panel. To set the selected layer mask's density, which is its opacity, Use the Density slider in the Properties panel. To apply feathering to all selected areas in the selected layer mask, use the Feather slider in the Properties panel. To invert the selections in a selected layer mask, click the Invert button in the Properties panel. To refine a selected layer mask in the Layers panel within the Select and Mask workspace in Photoshop, click the Select and Mask button in the Properties panel. This works the same as the Select and Mask workspace when making selections, as previously discussed. However, here you are painting the masked and non-masked areas in the layer mask. The Output To drop-down in the lower right corner of the Select and Mask workspace is also set to Layer Mask by default. To select pixels in a selected layer mask in the Layers panel by color range instead, click the Color Range button in the Properties panel to open the Color Range dialog box. This dialog box works the same way as when selecting colors in an image layer as previously discussed, but is instead selecting pixels in the mask by color range. You can also use the ability to make pixel-based selections using your selection tools in Photoshop, in conjunction with adding and removing layer masks to quickly edit layer masks. This can be useful for adding selected objects in a Photoshop document to an existing layer mask, for example. First, create the selections to add to the existing layer mask. For example, you could use the Object Selection tool to select another object in an image layer to add to a layer mask. With the new selection active on screen, right-click the existing layer mask to change in the Layers panel and choose the Add Mask to Selection command to add the selected content in the layer mask to your current selection. Doing this should then select both the new areas and the previous areas to which to apply the layer mask's related layers content in the image. Then simply delete the existing layer mask and apply a new layer mask. To delete a layer mask, select the layer mask thumbnail to delete in the Layers panel. Then select Layer, Layer Mask, Delete from the menu bar to delete the layer mask. To then apply a new layer mask that shows the linked layer's content only within the currently selected areas on screen, select Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal Selection from the menu bar. Alternatively, to instead apply a layer mask that hides the selection areas, choose Layer, Layer Mask, Hide Selection from the menu bar instead. You can repeat this process as needed to quickly edit layer masks by using these selection tools. To add a layer mask to any layer in Photoshop that doesn't have one, select the layer in the Layers panel to which to add the layer mask. If needed, then make the selection to show or hide within the layer mask's linked layer. You can then add a layer mask that shows or hides the selection, as mentioned previously. Alternatively, To add a layer mask that shows all the content of its linked layer, select Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All from the menu bar. Alternatively, to add a layer mask that hides all the content of its linked layer, select Layer, Layer Mask, Hide All from the menu bar. If you add a layer mask that shows or hides all content, you must then edit the mask to choose areas in which to show or hide the layer mask's linked layer's content if needed. To disable a layer mask in Photoshop to hide its filtering effects on its associated layer's content, select the layer mask to disable in the Layers panel. Then choose Layer, Layer Mask, Disable from the menu bar. To enable its display again, choose Layer, Layer Mask, Enable from the menu bar. Alternatively, hold down the Shift key and click a layer mask in the Layers panel to both disable and enable a layer mask. If needed, you can also move an existing mask in Photoshop from a layer to another layer that doesn't have a layer mask. To move a layer mask in the Layers panel of Photoshop, click and drag the layer mask to move, and then drop it onto the layer to which to move it. It then applies its masking effect to the new layer instead. Also note that if you duplicate a layer containing a layer mask, its layer mask is also duplicated. This is also an easy way to create a duplicate of an existing layer mask if needed, which you can then move to the desired layer and then delete the duplicated layer. This is just an alternative to adding the mask as a selection to the Photoshop document and then adding a new layer mask of the desired selection type to the new layer. Remember to click the subscribe button to see more of our videos. See our full suite of courses, instruction manuals, and quick reference guides at www.teachucomp.com.